What's going on, guys? Jacoby Kendrick here, the BJJ Realtor, coming at you with another video. So I get a lot of people asking me this question, so I thought I would just do a video on it. They're asking me how I actually got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So tell a little bit about that story, and I'd also like to hear from you guys how you got into Jiu Jitsu as well. So if you want to put that in the comments, or send me a message and let me know how you also got into jiu-jitsu. And always remember, if you like this content, if this is your first time actually seeing me here on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button. That way you can always be notified whenever new videos come out, and you can check them all out. So, how did I get started in jiu-jitsu? Well, I got started in jiu-jitsu not because I knew about jiu-jitsu, not even because I wanted to be in jiu-jitsu or I wanted to do jiu-jitsu. I got started in jiu-jitsu because of my son. So as most of you know, I've got 3 kids, 2 boys and a little girl, 7, 6, and 5. My middle son just turned 6 just recently. So actually 7, 6, and 4. My daughter's 4. So the reason why I got into jiu-jitsu though is we had my 2 boys in karate, and just because I thought they needed to be in a martial art. I never did martial arts growing up, but I always thought martial arts was good, and you know, people are always doing karate. Plus there was a pretty good little academy here in my hometown where a lot of kids go to, and so we put them in that. Other reason that I put them in karate is because we had them in gymnastics and swimming and some other things, and like in the gymnastics class my kids were basically running the class, and I was like, I'm not gonna be spending my money and the instructors are gonna be taking orders from my kids. So whenever we decided to put them in the karate class, the instructors at the karate academy were really good, teaching them discipline, how to listen and all of that stuff. I like for it to come from other people besides their mom and dad, and so it was really good. But as I went out to a real estate conference with a really good friend of mine, and he happened to be a jiu-jitsu brown belt, and I told him that, you know, we had just put our kids in karate, and I also told him the story of the other reason why I put my kids in karate is because my middle son Braden actually got slapped on the playground. And so I'm always telling my boys to stick up for each other, you know, so if somebody picks on you, they got to pick on both of you. And then my middle son got slapped, and then I realized, oh, he has no tools to take up for himself besides him and his brother rolling and wrestling in the living room. And so I was like, okay, to be fair, I got to get these guys trained up. That's one of the other reasons why they were in karate as well. So I go on this business trip with my buddy. It's a real estate conference. And I tell him we put him into jiu-jitsu, and he goes, man, get your kids out of jiu-jitsu, or get them out of karate. And I'm like, what do you mean, man? Like, I just put him in there. This is doing really good. And he's like, get your kids out of karate and put them in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, well, man, the only reason why you're saying that is because you have been doing jiu-jitsu forever. You're a jiu-jitsu brown belt. So obviously you're going to say, put them in jiu-jitsu. So after this conference, I went back, started doing a little research, and come to find out jiu-jitsu is, I mean, it's just awesome, right? A lot of things that I did not know, and really one of the main things that really caused me to take them out of karate and put them in jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna make up the numbers, I don't know what they are, but like 90%, 95% of all fights go to the ground. And so with that being said, if you're striking, that means you would be striking for a very limited amount of time. And so I'm not saying karate is not good, but also why are you spending that much time on striking when that's less than 70% of your fight for sure. And so you're going to be on the ground most of the time. The other thing that I really liked about it as I started to research is that jiu-jitsu is all about using the least amount of force to subdue your opponent. And it's all about control, right? And so if you can control a situation and you can also like subdue someone or keep them from attacking you or someone else without knocking them out or, you know, breaking their face or whatever else. That was a good thing for me as well. And then the other thing, the last thing that really got me is in karate, a lot of it is choreographed, at least what we were doing. I don't know much about karate, so I'm sure somebody's gonna watch this and be like, that's not what karate's about. But where we were, it was a lot about performance on getting your belts. I think they're called katas. So you just do a lot of stuff and you're not actually fighting, or my kids weren't actually fighting each other. And so I really wanted them to learn about what it's like to actually fight someone. And so in jiu-jitsu, you have to know how to fight. You have to know the techniques. You have to know how to take people down, reverse, perform different submissions before you can actually get promoted to the next belt. And so that's what I really liked about that, is you have to have knowledge and you have to perform that knowledge in order to get your belt. And so we ended up putting our kids, or at least my oldest, in jiu-jitsu. My youngest, Braden was a little too young at that point. The other thing my buddy told me is, he said, make sure you tell me who is the lead instructor or who's leading up the academy where you're at. And come to find out, I think it's just a blessing. One of my sensei now, you know, he's actually one of the most world-renowned jiu-jitsu black belts in the world. Whenever we go to tournaments, everybody knows him. It's absolutely awesome. Plus, he's just a jiu-jitsu genius is probably what I would call him. And so I told him who he was. My buddy checked him out. He's like, man, you are good to go. So we put my son in jiu-jitsu, and he loves it for a while. Then all of a sudden, he starts hiding his gi. He starts hiding it. Doesn't want to go, starts hiding it. And so eventually I'm like, okay, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. If you're like hiding the gi and all that stuff, you're going through all the trouble of not going, then that's fine. And so what I realized is that in order to have my kids do something, I've got to be the leader that I'm supposed to be as a dad and as a father. And so that is the reason why I signed up for jiu-jitsu, because my son didn't like it. And so then I was like, okay, well, I need to start learning these techniques and learning what jiu-jitsu is about, so at least I can like roll around with him in the living room and play around with him and start to teach him these things. Plus, if he sees me doing it, then he's gonna like it as well. And so that's essentially what happened. And so the reason why I got in, and you know, I actually got my butt kicked is what ended up happening. And I hate to lose. And so as that happened, because of jiu-jitsu, if you do jiu-jitsu, you already know it is mentally, it is just, it has your brain going in all sorts of places. I like to call it mental chess, or chess, like human chess, because you got to know, you got to have a strategy, you got to know the next move, you got to know your next 5 moves, where people are going to go next. And so I just could not take the fact that I was getting, you know, essentially beat up, basically put in a pretzel by guys that were smaller than me for one, and then they just been doing it for a while. And so that is how I got into it. I just fell in love with it. I love learning. I love getting out of different situations. I love strategizing, figuring out what I'm going to do next, how to figure things out. And for me, that is like heaven for me, just trying to figure those things out. And also gives you confidence. The thing I did not know is I did not know how vulnerable I was, because I played football. I'm a strong guy. I'm like, I can defend myself. I can take up for myself. But you literally do not understand how vulnerable you are when you have no training, when a jiu-jitsu black belt gets their hands on you. You would not know what to do, and they would choke you out 100%. And so I didn't like that, and so that's why I got started. And then once that came around, I had a buddy that was rolling with me at the academy as well, and he was going to do, I never planned on competing. He was going to do a competition, and he's like, hey man, do you want to do this competition with me? And I was like, sure. I was like, I'll do it. And then he ended up actually dropping out of the competition. He didn't even do it because he had something to do with work. It's not his fault. But that is actually how I got started in jiu-jitsu. My son got me started into it. It's been one of the best things that has happened to us, especially for my kids' development. They're learning how to do things that they're scared to do. They're learning how to persevere, how to overcome, how to fight people that are bigger than them, how to fight people that are smaller than them. And then for them, they're also learning how to, roll with girls as well, how to treat girls. And so it's pretty awesome. And I get to teach them a lot of life lessons through that. And they're starting to compete now as well. And they actually love it now. It's crazy how my oldest son went from hiding his gi to actually liking it and wanting to go to classes. And so it's really fun. If you're thinking about jiu-jitsu, for one, as an adult, or even as someone who's older, like over 35, over 40, or thinking about getting your kids into it, I would highly recommend it. Most academies you go to, they give you a trial period, at least so you can check it out. And if you like it, you can stick with it. If you don't, then there's no obligation to stay in. My whole family does it now. So I'm rolling, my wife's rolling, my 2 sons are rolling. My daughter rolled for a little bit. She's got a mind of her own. I don't know if she's going to get back in it or not. I hope she does, because she would be really, really good. But we're all doing it. We're all having a good time. And so I'm really thankful for that. And thankful that my boys actually got me into jiu-jitsu. So that's all I got, guys. I'd love to hear your stories as well. So comment in the comments below. Tell me your story. How did you get started in jiu-jitsu? Os.